Today I'm going to be showing you how I make these fingerless gloves. It's a pretty easy project. I'm doing it on my 40-pin Sentro. I'm going to be using the Red Heart roll with it in Gray Whisper. And if you don't already subscribe to my channel, please do. Set the notifications so you know when I post a new video. I'm going to be doing a series of videos with a knitting machine, making many different projects and showing you how to fix some skip stitches, etc. So make sure you are following and subscribe, and we're going to jump right into this project. It's pretty easy. It shouldn't take too long. Let's do it. Starting with a contrasting waste yarn, and I will do 5 or 6 rows of this first. So let's get to the beginning, which is this black pin right here. I'm going to reset my counter, and just so you can see it. So casting on is standard on, I think, all machines. You do an under and over kind of method. I do front, back, all the way around, like so. Being careful not to miss any pins because it will mess up your whole project. Okay, so I'm going to put it in my tension. I always put it on the middle one, medium tension. The yarn likes to get caught on my counter sometimes. Okay, so here is 6. So we're going to stop here. I'm going to trim that up. I'm just going to bring this over to the center. Oops. Okay, so I will start on this black pin with my new yarn. Okay, put that down and load it in the machine. And I will do, reset the counter always. I will do 50 rows of this working yarn. And once your yarn, once you get a few rows in, it won't continue to do this. It's just the first few rows you have to watch. And we don't tie this together because we will be removing this waste yarn once we're done with the 50 rows. Okay, I'm going to fast forward this so you don't have to watch the whole thing. So I'll meet you back at the end once I get to 50. Okay, so we're at 50 as soon as I get to right here. So from this point, I will take my yarn out and I'm going to trim it off. I'm going to leave quite a bit because I'm going to use this to sew up the end once I'm there. So let's just keep that pretty lengthy and put that right in the center. And we're going to grab another bit of waste yarn to finish off this first glove. Again, I will reset the counter and I'm going to do 5 or 6 rows of this. I'll do one more. There we go. And there it is. Okay. So I'm going to cut this off. And now we're ready to remove the project from the machine. So all you do, let me always reset my counter first. So I'm just going to give it a spin. And it should fall right off. There we go. Okay. So this is what we've got. We're going to give it a good stretch to lock in those stitches. And I'm going to move you over here. Hang on. Okay, now that we've got it off the machine, we're just going to give it a nice tug. Make sure everything's locked in. So we're going to be closing up the ends here. Make sure you've got your waste yarn and your working strings at the proper end. And I always make sure that these are both up this way, because I'm going to be starting at the bottom and using my crochet hook. Doesn't really matter the size. I'm using a 4.25, and all I'm doing is finding the gray, the first, I should say, gray, which is my working yarn here, to get it off of the waste yarn. So all I do is I find this, start with the very last stitch here, and I'm just going to weave these back and forth to lock them in. I'm just kind of hooking them all together like this, and I'll go back and forth all the way up till you get to the end. I'm just closing up these ends, same as if you were doing an ear warmer, because this is the same method. Hopefully you can see this okay. See, I'm just finding that very last stitch and just yarning over each one to make them, to join them together, which is closing up this end. And it should start to look like this, okay? And then we will remove this once we get to the end. So I'm not going to make you sit here and watch all of this. I'll speed this up so that we can meet at the end and continue with the other side. Okay, now that I'm at the end, you've got to be careful here, because there's these down here like to hide in this bottom part here. So you need to open this up, and you're going to look for these hidden. See, there's one right here. Okay, so we don't want to miss that, because if you miss one, you're going to end up having a dropped stitch. So there's that one, and there's one on the other side in the same spot, and there should be one right at the very end. And I think, let's see, I think I already got it. So we're going to yarn over and we're going to pull this out. Okay, so that is done. So all we do is now we just remove this waste yarn off the end. This. And give it a little tug at the end. Sometimes it likes to get stuck. Especially on the working yarn tail here. But nothing that a good yank won't get out. Okay, so there's that, and you can save this for your next project. Okay, so see, now that's nice and clean, stitched up. And we're going to do the same thing to the other side. So I'll start you off and then I'll fast forward it. So you start with that very bottom stitch and you're just yarning over to join them. Whoops. Okay, I'm just going to speed it up so that you don't have to sit through this. Okay, so I'm again at the end, and you need to be careful with all of these stitches in here. So you've got to make sure you get them all. And then you just yarn over. Oops. Okay, so again, we're here. Now this end will be a little bit more tricky getting this waste yarn out. So the first thing you need to do is take out this first, this top row here. And once you get around all the way with this, it should come out easily. It should. We'll see. If not, I'm cutting it out. Oops. Oh, I'm already bunching it up. So this is what usually happens on this side, which is okay. I'll just cut it out. Okay. So there we go. Now we've got both ends closed. Get rid of this. Stretch it out really good. Now I did these on the 40. I do like them on the 48 as well. So what I do is I just lay my hand like this. Make sure it's going to reach. Because this is a nice stretchy yarn, it should be nice and snug. So I'm going to take this end because I've left the long tail in order to sew it up. So I'm just going to fold them over this way. And I'm going to get my needle. Hang on. Okay, I'm using this one. Through there. So I'm starting right at this end. And I'm just going to start doing that. And then what you want to do is you're going under to find these, let me make sure I've got it, these bars. In between your V's are these little bars. That's what you're going under. And you're just going to go, you're going to go over, you're going to cross back and forth. And don't pull too tight because then they'll bunch them up. So I'm going under. And I usually do a couple at a time. I don't do every single individual one. If I find that there's a gap when I'm done this part, I will go back all the way down and do them again just to secure it. But the majority of the time, this works just fine. Okay, do you see what I'm doing? Because I'm going to speed this up so you don't have to watch me do this whole process. Whoops. I'm just going from side to side, and I'm going underneath those bars, a couple at a time. Like that. Okay, so I'll speed it up and I'll meet you back at the thumb hole where we make the thumb hole. Okay. Okay, so I'm up about, let me get my ruler. So it's about 5 inches. So I'll go 5 inches up. So that's rough. And I'll also place my hand down to roughly give me an idea where I want my thumb hole to be. And that's about right. So what I'll do is to secure that bottom, I will go across to the other side. So that gives it that straight across stitch here. Okay. And then what I'll do is I'll come back to the other side and I'll go under about 2 inches worth of stitches. So that will create my thumb hole, and then I'll cross back over, right? So that closes up both ends. So there's my thumb hole there. And then I will just continue doing this method to the top. Now this is the way that I do it. I know there may be other ways people do it, but this is just how I do it. So do whatever you're comfortable with. This is just my method. Okay, so just finishing these off. So what I'll do here is I just go down where I sewed just to make sure that there's no holes except for my thumb hole that I don't want. And if there is, so here's here's a little spot. You can see that right here. So I'll just go back over that. And I'll just do it just how I was just doing. I'll go down and then back up, but I'm not going to go all the way down because everywhere else is good. So I'm just going to turn it around, and I'm going to seal this part up first, and then I'll start going back down. I mean, there's really no wrong way to do this because, I mean, it'll be hidden in this seam anyway. Whoops. And just make sure that I've closed that up. So then I'll turn around and I'm going to go back up. Because I want to end up here so that I can tie these off. But before I do that, we will try them on. They look very narrow. This is done on the 40. They are wider on the 48. But depending on your yarn and how you like the fit, I like mine nice and snug. So these are good for me. As you can see, they fit nice. And that seam is, I mean, it's hardly noticeable, right? So, and I use the sparkle. So this is actually the roll with it. The sparkle. I do like this. It worked well on my machine. So now that I've got these, and you know what I like about this yarn too, is it's nice and it's thin, right? So it's not bulk. Like these ones are quite bulky, but they're warm. And these were also done on the 40. So it's funny how it just depends on the yarn that you're using. So what I'll do at this point is I'm just going to tie this off. And that's basically it. I'll put a couple of light knots in here. And then I like to even out my thread. And then I'll take these. And I just like to weave it through to get it hidden in between the layers. So I'll go down quite a bit and just pull it through. Once I get it through here, I'll cinch it up just a little bit and trim that off and then pull it back so that now it's inside. Okay, and that's basically it. There's one done. And these would be perfect for kids this size too. I mean, my hands aren't that big. Well, I'm not that big. My hands aren't that big, so they fit pretty good. But they're nice and snug. But they are comfortable, so I can't. I mean, I can't complain. So I will do the other one and meet you back here. Okay, I'm at 50 rows. I'm going to cut my tail off here so that I've got enough to weave it through at the end. And drop this in the center. And I'm just going to start with my waste yarn. Reset the counter. And there we go. Okay, now I'm at the end of my waste yarn, so I'm going to go ahead and tuck this in the middle. And then we're just going to give it a spin to get it off of the machine. And there we go. Okay. Okay, so now we're just going to give it a stretch to lock in those stitches. This. And again, I've got my waste yarn ends and my working yarn ends at this end. Okay, so we'll start down here. This is a better view to see this. I won't make you sit through the whole thing. So we're finding this end stitch and we're just going to go right to the left and yarn over that. And then switch sides and yarn over. Just back and forth all the way up. This is just how my technique of doing it. I'm sure there may be easier ways or different ways. This is just the way that I'm comfortable doing it. So you'll find your niche once you get started. Oops. So just back and forth. Did I miss one? Whoops. I might have missed one. Yeah, right here. Mm. Okay, so I'm just going to fast forward so you don't have to sit through this. Okay, so now that I'm at this end, I'm just going to pull this apart right here, like this, and you can see these stitches right in here. One, and two. It's usually those two. Let me get this waste yarn out of the way, and then I'm just going to yarn over and pull that through. Okay, so that's that. Now we'll remove the waste yarn. Get this out of the way. If I don't move that, it'll end up getting caught in a knot. So I just have to kind of move that out of my way. And there we go. So that's that. Save that for the next project. And then you can see this is nice and closed. And we'll do the same to the other side. I'll flip it around. And then get that to the top. And line this up and start at the bottom. Okay, like this, like this. All the way up. Okay, and I'll meet you back at the top. Okay, I'm back at the top. I'm just getting these last few stitches. In here. And is that all of them? I believe so. Yarn over and pull it through. And there we go. So we're just going to remove this waste yarn. And that one came off easier, so I can save both of these for my next project. And there we go. Nice and clean edge. Okay, stretch that out. And I'm going to take this end and sew it up that way. So I'm going to take my needle. I'm just going to thread that through and start down here, right at the bottom. I'm just going to sew these together now, going under the bars like I did the last one. And working my way to the top. Don't pull too tight because it will pucker. Okay, now that I'm at the top, I'm just going to make sure that it's all sealed up. Try it on. Make sure it's good. And we will tie this off. Okay. I'm going to trim this off. And I'm just going to weave, just going to weave this through. So I'll just take it right down here, just to get that extra thread tucked away. And I'll just trim that off. There we go. Okay, so that's how I make fingerless gloves. This is in the Roll With It Sparkle. I really like how they turned out. I think I might make the matching ear warmer or hat to go with it, or go with them. If you need any more, or if you have any questions, just put them in the comments and I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. Again, please subscribe to my channel and like this video, and I'll see you back here with the next video. Okay, thanks a lot for watching. See you soon.